A parte, a gente tinha mencionado que talvez fosse em português para deixar todo mundo à vontade, tá? Pode ser em inglês também. Fique à vontade a fazer as perguntas, né, que vocês queiram. So you feel free to ask the question you want. So quite possibly we're going to swap between English and Portuguese all the time. But I would like to welcome all the speakers for the morning session. So now we will have, for 1 hour, we will have enough time for asking the questions they wanted to ask. So faça as perguntas que vocês, né, queriam fazer durante a apresentação. E mais do que isso, né, a gente vai perguntar, né, o que a gente pode, qual que seriam, né, as perspectivas, por exemplo, de interação nessas 3 frentes que foram apresentadas e quais, né, quais seriam aí as possibilidades, né, no panorama atual brasileiro e nacional, né, dessa pesquisa. Por favor. Bom, primeiro eu abro para perguntas do público, né, para vocês. Vamos lá, pessoal. Aqui é uma conversa, né, super tranquila. Perguntas.
So, first of all, thanks for all these presentations. One question for Diogo. When you're showing this VKA, I was thinking about what's the difference between the VKA and the quantum machine learning itself, because it seems like you have a unitary, you apply your unitary, then you come back and do this process every time, every round, and what's the difference between, and what's the perspective for these algorithms in terms of like machine learning to use, there's many use for that, for the classical one, but for quantum one, it's any specific use?
Well, my most honest answer to your question is the difference between VQA and quantum machine learning is that I don't know. So, but what I can tell is that...
Yeah.
Right?
It's probably just a good marketing name.
Exactly, just a grant-friendly name. Yeah, so, but I can tell you that the structure of VQA is quite well defined with these 3 parts. The ansatz, the unitary transformation, the cost function, and the classical optimization. This is one important part of the VQA. You need always a classical computer to update your parameters. So I don't know, probably Felipe know with some detail the quantum machine learning, but I don't know if the machine learning the machine learning can be used in this optimization part, but it must be classical in the VQA. See, but it was
okay, it's working? Yeah? Okay. In general, when you use VKE, you use 2 optimization problems. So the idea is to codify optimization problem in a Hamiltonian, and then the answer is in the ground state of this Hamiltonian. So in general, you use VKE to calculate the ground state of a Hamiltonian or excited states of a Hamiltonian, and in general to use for optimization. Both of them are variational algorithms, quantum machine learning or VKE or QAWA. QAWA is another algorithm for optimization. But in general, the result that you desired for these variational algorithms when you are working with quantum machine learning is just to classify, is just to regression, or to detect a problem, a diagnostic, something like this. But the main point, in my point of view, the main difference is that it's not related in general with the ground state or the optimization problem. You can take many other answers using quantum machine learning, but it's not necessary for optimization when you're talking about quantum machine learning. In VKE, in general, is optimization problems.
So, together with you, I'm just starting in this, but
I think it's, I don't know if that's the spirit of your question, but in a way you might call it learning in the sense that you are finding the optimal parameters of that. So it's kind of learning, like, you know, fitting a straight line to data points is learning the parameters of that straight line. But it's, from what I learned today, it's not like you have a quantum neural network, right? You don't have that structure of the neurons with connectivity to a next layer and then, you know, a nonlinear part of activation functions. I mean, I didn't see this in the, apparently in one graph there was this, but I don't think it's I mean, it's the algorithms, you don't do this. You're optimizing parameters, but of a unitary. Maybe you can map one thing into the other, but it's not, I mean, it doesn't seem to me that it's like quantum neural network. But still, it's like they said, it's all optimization, right?
So we have a question from the chat, so I go with that. The question is, I'm a senior IT professional working with classical computing. How can I start to be prepared to the quantum world? I'm asking that because I've seen only doctors and master's degree in physics in that area. So somebody wants to... Okay, Felipe, you have been targeted by both, so it's your moment.
Nowadays, there's... yeah, there's a lot of courses nowadays. There's free courses. There's an extension in the ICTP, that together with Marcos and the other colleagues, we just began maybe 2-3 years ago. We developed also 2 courses in the ICTP, basic one and another one for quantum machine learning optimization. But recently, there is, if you have a look in LinkedIn, for example, you can see some free courses that you just could use to begin and then to try to learning. But it's a long curve of knowledge that you need to cross to reach this. Please.
So if I can add, actually, we do have this course for, you know, like for 2 or 3 years. And this is a short course supposed to be like 60 to 50 hours that's available to everyone. And there is one simple course, which is the Introduction to Quantum Computing, where we base the basics of quantum computing and the algebra for lay persons. So this is not supposed to be to a physicist or mathematician. And also we have another one where you see all those algorithms that were told you early this morning, and with details. But we are at the moment just developing a course, a long course that will be for something like 300 hours or so, because people outside the academic universities, and so they want, you know, just like this question, they want to be prepared for that, but they don't really want to follow to do a master's degree or a PhD. So I think it's a good thing to start it.
But let me, let's say, do a provocative question. I mean, what do you think? I mean, an IT professional, like the person that asked the question, I mean, do you think, you already know where I'm going. I mean, so do you think the person wants to go, the purpose of doing this is to, let's say, increase your cultural background and your knowledge, or to be prepared for a scenario in which the job market will require that? Because if it is the first, I totally encourage people to do. If it is the second, I think they can, let's say, sleep well for several years before the job market will mostly require IT professionals to have a preparation in quantum mechanics, let's say.
Well, it's a very interesting comment that you made. Because, so first of all, I think, I mean, it's a great initiative to have these.
Absolutely, I'm not advocating for not doing that.
No, yeah, exactly. And together with this, I think we should more and more make it clear that we will not be able to develop these quantum technologies just between physicists. Especially because physicists are not trained to do that. We need engineers, we need IT professionals, because the amount of complexity you find when you try to get these things into the real world is amazing. Because so you start with the concept, which is what we are trained to do. Then you start making the hardware, and then you say, okay, but I need something to control this hardware, and this becomes an electrical engineering problem. And then someone says, yes, but then your hardware, your classical hardware needs to be programmable, and this becomes an IT problem because you need to make an interface to this hardware. And then if you want to put this online so that other people can use it, it becomes even more complicated. If you want to interface two of these things, there is the whole field of like quantum networks now, where there are people that work on actual telecom networks that have valuable input to give to this. And in this sense, I'm not sure if, I mean, I wouldn't say that you can wait for a few years or decades. We cannot wait for, you know, a fault-tolerant 1,000-qubit quantum computer to be ready. We need these people now. We need people that are interested in the area. And,
right,
but of course, this will grow. And in a sense, I have the feeling that this will grow organically. As a few people come in, we start making a bit of technology, and this becomes, you know, this catches the eye of, I don't know, venture capital or some company.
That is where I was going. Suppose that you are an IT professional with a secure job. Now, who is going to pay this IT professional to move to the quantum world? The joint venture, in that case, would you recommend an IT professional to do the jump or not? So in other words, let's put it brutally. Do you think the quantum winter will arrive or not?
Okay, so first of all, a disclaimer that I'm not suitable to give anyone job advices.
No, none of us. I mean, absolutely,
yeah. I mean, don't.
I mean, we said that it's informal, this meeting, so I'm
no, it's also a very honest and very good question. I mean, is the quantum winter coming? Because with this kind, is the AI winter coming? It's also a question, right? Because there is some, I don't know what's happening behind me.
They
but
are showing
the
kind of
their
courses
course,
that,
which is, great. No, but really, it's like for machine learning. There are some open questions about how far you can go with these things, and they are already being plugged into nuclear centrals, to nuclear power plants, to be able to crunch the amount of data that they need. So.
No, but at least there is something honestly, that can be already sold.
Okay, yes. Well, there is something being sold in quantum as well. I mean, IBM sells access to their machines, and there are other kinds of quantum hardware that are being sold. They're not solving big problems yet, but you know, we need to keep going. It's a very hard task. The target is very far away, but if we give up, we'll never get there.
No, absolutely. I'm wondering if it is already outside the academic point, or if we are still inside the academic part. So I'm wondering, you think it's already a bit outside? So
it's actually funny. There are two things to this. One, I was commenting just this morning with a colleague that it seems that in Europe now, every professor is getting a startup now, because maybe that's the way to go. There's a lot of venture capital around, apparently. That may go away because money follows its own rules, right? Maybe it's not advantageous. Maybe it's not freely available money anymore, and then this all dries up. And then we go into a winter in the sense that you have less funds for this. But the challenges are still there, and I mean, in the end, the answer is I don't know. If you're the kind of person that likes the adventure of, you know, joining a startup and something that might go wrong, do it. But if you have a secure job, and no, maybe don't. the point is we need to
That's
to
for
attract
sure, yeah.
people from outside physics for
Yeah.
sure.
And
to
do
be
you
able
think
to
it's possible to convince, let's say, grants found and so on of this idea, and so use the money of grants to involve, to let's say, to bring people from outside? Because what you say is totally correct, but I was wondering if we can do something with our grants for that? Or
okay, so maybe this might also be the reason why every professor in Europe is now getting a startup, because then you get more flexibility in who you
Right.
hire and everything. Because the funding, I mean, guys, if you want to comment,
sorry. It's
feel
becoming
free to. Yeah, no, but look, so the funding structure that exists is maybe not optimized for this kind of thing. And so, for instance, you can apply for master's or PhD fellowships. You can also apply for funds to pay people to develop technology. CNPq has scholarships for this, for instance. But it doesn't pay a lot. FAPESP has also the technical training scholarships, which in principle could serve for, you take someone that has 15 years of experience in doing electrical engineering at a company, and this person wants to transition into quantum. You say, come, I'll give you these funds for a few years. You work with me, you'll learn something, and you come out the other side knowing a new set of skills. This could be good. But at the same time, these highly skilled professionals, at least what I see, because of my short time developing this, it's people that already have very good paying jobs. So it depends on them, to want to do this full time. Part time, they're more willing to do it, but full time, maybe we need a better. Better ways to pay people, and yeah.
Okay, so let's change subject. So who else want to ask questions?
Hello, good morning, everyone. Well, first I have a comment that iron molybdenum complex is part of a protein of a bacteria that are present associated with the roots of the plants that we see. They are very important for fixating nitrogen, which is basically the explanation for the success of Brazilian agriculture. So maybe quantum computing is not that far away from our reality, right? The question is for Pierre-Louis, sorry. How do you make those integrated devices, especially the selenides and the sulfides? And what would be the electro-optical modulator for those devices?
Okay, thanks. So first, an anecdote about this. About a year ago, there was an event here in São Paulo that was discussing, the start of a quantum initiative, and they had a representative, a researcher from Embrapa, and I approached her about this, like, look, maybe simulating these kinds of molecules would be interesting, and also, but it's a very hard task, like I've showed you. And then her reply was very, very interesting. She told me that actually we don't need this in Brazil. We don't, because we already have biotechnology that essentially solves the problem. We're not very, very much dependent on that kind of thing, from what I understood of her answer. So already I found this, great. There are other things around us besides using quantum to solve everything. And but biotechnology right now is solving very complex problems with very clever solutions. And so for the selenides and the sulfides, these are 2D materials. They are crystals that you can find in nature. You can also synthesize in a lab. And the thing about them is that they're the semiconductor analogs of graphene. So it's a layered material. So you have many atomic layers, or molecular layers, if you will, which interact weakly with each other. So you can exfoliate them. You stick tape, and as you peel off the tape, a part of the crystal will go on the tape and a part will stay on the other side. So if you have two sides of tape, you do this, and you can keep doing this until you have monolayers. And it's something, I mean, some of my students are in the audience, they already do this. It's something that with a bit of practice you can learn to do. And it's interesting because they can act as light emitters. They can act as saturable absorbers, which is a kind of material which will absorb light if the intensity is below a certain threshold. But then after it goes above this threshold, it's a nonlinear optical material, so above a certain threshold, it will stop absorbing light if it were a perfect saturable absorber. So you can use it to, let's say, implement nonlinear functions in your photonic neural network, for instance. It's something that we're interested in exploring. And you can also use some 2D materials to do the electro-optical modulation. It's the project of Leonard. Leonard is over there in green. Yeah, but and for his project, we're going to use graphene because it's a master's project. It has already been demonstrated to be able to do this modulation. So we want to, learn the technique with something that we more or less know that will work, and then move on to new materials, because graphene has the problem that it's a gapless. It depends who you talk to, but it's a gapless semiconductor. It's a semi-metal. It has a direct cone. Fermi energy is at the crossing, so I mean it has no gap, so it absorbs. And you don't want an optical modulator that absorbs light if you're doing quantum photonic processing, because it will eat up your qubits. So we want to move to more transparent materials, and investigate other 2D materials would be very interesting for this.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, well, towards any of you three, I guess. All the presentations here focused a lot on quantum computing, but I wanted to know, like, the methods and the devices that you guys explored in your presentation. Like, how do you envision them? Like, would they be useful, or what are the prospects of using them in applications in quantum communication specifically? Like error correction codes or photonic devices?
Well, for quantum communication, I'm not an expert. Somebody knows about quantum communication. Honestly, for quantum communication, what could I say? That they try some photonic arrangements, yes, but honestly, I don't know how many they do this. Maybe there's some experts here. But we will have an appropriate meeting for the demonstration. Okay, great. Probably even Marcus could answer better than.
Well, I have to say that there are many problems in communication where you have like these optical networks. You have to optimize the use of the resources. So, for example, you could use this. This is a direct implementation of a graph. And you could use this for the optimization problem. So you could, for example, find the best, communication track over for spreading out quantum coherence or entanglement, whatever, over the network using quantum and classical repeaters. So a direct use on that. But also for the technologies, I suppose they are, which are involved. So, for example, for the development of quantum computation, so many things have been done in the lab. So now we have a control on many things, from ion traps to superconducting circuits to solid-state devices in general. So I think it's it's a huge gain for the technology.
Can I just? I'll be brief. Well, so as Felipe already mentioned, if you want to do communication, you want to do it with photons because they're the most suitable. So the first application I see for these devices is just to do quantum state preparation. If you want to send a quantum state from one site to another site, physical site, you need to do quantum state preparation, right? And maybe if you want to look into there's also the idea of doing distributed quantum computing where you have some quantum processing resources scattered around the country or wherever, and you send quantum information between them. So this is also something that I see. But I mean, this is still an idea, let's say.
Can I ask a question to Pierre? So, okay. So as far as I understand, let's say companies are right now mostly focusing on superconducting qubits, right? Most of them, and what is Rydberg atoms, let's say, right? So is there any big companies that is doing photonic?
Yes. So yes, indeed. Superconducting qubits, they got the head start, and they have the big companies behind them, like Google, Amazon, and IBM. You have neutral atoms now coming with, yeah. But yeah, in photonics, there are, yeah, Xanadu was the first one. It's continuous variable. Then you have C quantum in the US. Yeah. Phasecraft, I didn't know this one. Okay, yeah, so this one I didn't know. But PsiQuantum, it's fusion-based quantum computing. It's the one that I mentioned. Yeah, so their strategy is that they circumvent the problem of the CNOT gates by producing entangled states. So you are already, because entanglement is a resource for quantum computation, so they are already injecting entanglement with this, with their strategy. So Xanadu was a continuous variable, Phasecraft I don't know. And then now you have Quandela, which is a company that started selling single photon sources, and now they sell, you know, their photonic processor. And you have, I just learned of Orca, which is a company started by Ian Walmsley in the UK. They have a partnership with a company called Sparrow Quantum, which sells single photon sources as well. And there's also Quix Quantum. Quix is a Dutch company. They do stuff which is, I mean, it's more or less what I've shown you, like these programmable chips, and then you need to attach a single photon source to them if you want to do something. But
there is also for quantum key distribution as well, some commercial quantum ID, yes, I don't remember.
Yeah, no. Sorry, yeah, good catch. I mean, I'm not even going into quantum key distribution because that's a whole other world. And you're right. I mean, there's Toshiba, there is ID Quantique, there is maybe someone else that I'm missing, but for sure, I mean, I think Toshiba and ID Quantique are the ones that really come to mind.
And they are already selling these kinds of
yes, and they have, you know, actual implementations in some in Switzerland and Japan. I mean, for sure you're going to have. I mean, not for sure, but I imagine you're going to have another event of this for maybe quantum cryptography. So then it's yeah.
I wanted to make a question and comment on. I saw a video. There's a YouTube post from Scott Aronson. Has been interviewed by Brian Greene. You know, this particle physicist that is all around YouTube and etc. It's a great interview, by the way. And I wasn't aware, but Scott pointed out a paper that he posted in March in Archive this year. I just had it open here. It's called Certified Randomness from Quantum Supremacy. And the problem that he poses is how to tap on the power of current NISQ devices with their limitations in terms of number of qubits and circuit depth to generate what he calls a certified randomness. So it's to produce random numbers, but that can be certified. Because, of course, he starts the article with the example from Edward Snowden, right? When NSA, which is supposed to be using secret keys, produced a random number that had flaws in it so that they could tap into the conversations and decrypt them easily. So he puts the Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency world that is also subject to this issue, right? I mean, if someone can tap into the cryptography used, then it is a problem, right? Someone can get very rich, or you can even use it as a source of a certified source of randomness, because if nobody's getting rich with that, it means that it's very secure. So he puts out the paper. I'm not familiar into the mathematics. I wanted to ask you guys if any of you are aware of it, and what developments you foresee in this direction. Like, he's trying to put something useful out of the current NISC quantum computers.
Hi, Gustavo. I was aware of this interview of Scott Aronson. I watched the interview, and then I went to this paper to try to understand what he's talking about. Well, last Paraty, the conference, we had some talks from Steve Walborn talking about random number generation. So this is one very important question to solve. I think that we are just on the very infancy of this area. We need a lot to investigate, to try to understand in how to certify, not to have these mistakes during the random number generation, and to turn it easy to target the generation of random numbers. What I must tell you is that this paper of Scott is just the tip of the iceberg that we need to dig in to understand this problem, because some people are trying to sell these random number generators. Even during Stephen's always, they have a company in Chile just to sell this random number generation, but the certification of the random number generation is something that is crucial. I'm not aware of a proper way, the certified way to certify the random number generation. So it's a very important problem that's just in infancy. It's not exactly related to our presentations here, in the sense that, in my case, I was looking for optimization problems. Maybe if you go to Pierre's presentation and you look for these crystals and you think about the boson sampling solution of the problem, which goes back to Scott again, Scott Aronson again. So maybe there you can discuss about finding random numbers using these crystals, using the C0 gates along the distributing of the information there, and the output would be some random number. And if you think about boson sampling, and if you think about these devices, maybe this can be some connection with what we have seen here today. But in my scenario specifically, I think that VQAs are most tailored to optimization questions, finding ground states of Hamiltonians, or finding the optimal structure of a protein, or things like this. But I agree with you that this is one very important problem. It must be, every one of us interested in quantum must be careful and look to this problem with a lot of interest, because it's a very important problem. Next conference we're going to have here about quantum communication, random number generation will be very important. I mean, many applications this will be very important. I know this is a really good interview of Scott, and the paper is quite hard to follow, but it's a good point.
That's a very nice introduction.
Sure,
I could read
sure.
through it, but eventually I got...
You got stuck in the middle of the calculation, yeah.
Next question. So I have a question, actually, that I would like to steer up, like the discussion here in Brazil. So what do you guys think about the involvement of, recent involvement of Brazil? We have a history on people working on quantum systems, but right now we do have not a lot, but some money being directed to a few initiatives. So what do you think, where we can go, you know, like what we need right now to take the next step? Because surely we need not just technology for quantum communication, which has already started, but for quantum computing. But for quantum computing, it's quite expensive, as we know, if we are going to you know, to a certain technology which is already there, which is the superconducting. But what we should do? What's your opinion? The opinion of your three? What we should do on the next step?
Well, I'll be quite short in my answer. We need to construct our own quantum computer. This is my view. Because nowadays they are just blocking the access to this technology, and soon we will not have this to use. And if in 10 years, 15 years, it brings some advantage, and if you don't have our own quantum computer, probably we will not have access to this technology. And it will be probably a breakthrough in many, many areas. So I think, of course, it's a lot of money. We need to include billions, maybe. But if you want to keep as a protagonist, we need to put money to construct our own computer. This is my point of view.
If you have to back on which technology, which physical system you would back?
I don't know. Maybe we can begin with the atoms, because in my point of view, it will bring some advantage in quantum simulation. And I think. Yeah, because it's at least to begin, of course. We will not have a universal quantum computer, probably not with this, but then you can also begin with the probably the first task that we can attack, that's quantum simulation, and also maybe quantum optimization. Then I think that should be the first attack.
Yes, actually, yeah, I would say photonics, but I can justify it. It's not just to pay my salary, right? But before we go into this, sorry, Diogo, do you want to go first? No? Okay, thanks. So a first point that we must always keep in mind is that, so this is a global race. Our country has limited resources, and the amount of resources that are allocated to funding research are even more limited. And there are other kinds of research that are also important, right? We cannot put all the money into quantum. So this is one thing we must keep in mind. The other thing we must keep in mind is that we will not be able to do it without the private sector investing as well. And then we must maybe make them more conscious of they need to have a bit more of fear of missing out, which is what's driving a lot of this, a lot of the investments in this area, right? That if you don't invest now, something big will come along the way and you are going to miss the opportunity. And they need to understand exactly what Felipe said, that you cannot say, but I would just buy the service later, because for some things it's likely that it won't be available. Okay, some of these technologies are already restricted, and I don't think it's going to be as openly available as, you know, using ChatGPT. So there is that, and so we need to get the private sector involved. And on which technology I would bet? I think that, I mean, we have great people working on superconducting qubits. It's a smaller community in Brazil, very small. We have also people working with atoms. But I think that integrated photonics has a series of advantages. That it's the fact that it's in my opinion, a more efficient investment, because the technological platform that you need to develop the kind of things that I've shown you is the same platform that you need to develop classical devices that you use for telecom, new classical devices that you can use for machine learning using a fraction of the power. And so with the noise comes back. So with the same investment, you can, if you invest it smartly, let's say, and I'm not the one that's going to say how to do it smartly, let's say, but if you invest in a platform that allows you to build these kinds of technologies, these integrated photonic technologies, you can get a lot out of it. In particular, in partnership with the private sector, there are already companies that do classical photonic technologies in Brazil, in Campinas. We have some. So it could make this ecosystem grow. You could get things out of it faster, because at the end of the day, people that, if you invest public funds, the society is your investor. If you invest private funds, then you have a group of people that want to see the results. So in the end, you always have someone that wants to see results of that money being invested. Otherwise, they will take out the money and put it somewhere else. And so if you have this platform where you can have actual technology that can go into products, and that, so you can show results to people, maybe not immediate quantum results, but saying, look, we are being really honest, that we are building the platform, we're building the base, and we're going to build on top of that and keep on building until we reach the big quantum technologies, but generating, jobs, and improving the whole society can benefit from, investing in this kind of thing, because you have higher paying wages, and then these people spend more on their local economies, and this can revert into taxes that goes into high schools and elementary schools and whatnot. So, I mean, I think for this reason, I see that for Brazil, integrated photonics would be a good investment option. But we still need to build this base, right?
Well, I'll follow the same arguments of Pierre, but without any conflict of interest, because I'm not from quantum optics and photonics originally. But I think that as a country, we need to choose at least one platform that we can have experienced researchers already to work on this. And then atoms and optics are two strong communities in the country. And these from the theoretical and experimental side. And then I believe that these people can work with and get improvement from engineering, from telecom, which we also have strong researchers on the area. And then I truly believe that it's a matter of choice. We need to choose the best platform for our know-how that we already have, so, to optimize the investments.
Maybe to conclude the question, do you think we can go a bit farther away than Brazil and talk about a Latin American project, or is out of?
I can't answer. My experience in Latin America is not good enough.
In my point of view, I think that Brazil is a leader in Latin America working with quantum computation.
So it's essentially the same, let's say.
Yes, I think so.
Well, just quickly, yeah, I think we should look to Latin American partners. There is the case that was already mentioned of Stephen Walborn, who was, up until a few years ago, he was a professor at the University of Rio de Janeiro, the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, and then he moved to Chile. So there is this bridge. There are also a few labs now that are using, that I know, that are using electronics for photon correlation that is made in Colombia. They're not using, the modules made in Switzerland or in the US, but they're using something made by a Colombian company. So, and I mean, Leonard came from Peru, so I think it's important to have this integration, because we cannot forget that the European Union is a union of states. So I mean, they do it. We could. The scale is a bit more complicated because in Europe mobility is much easier than in Latin America because it's a huge continent. But it's something that we should have in mind, this kind of partnership.
We are talking about Latin America. Maybe you'll bring it more to the region of São Paulo. We recently had some grants given by FAPESP to quantum initiatives. And I'm very happy because I'm part of the project that will build the quantum communication network in the city. And I imagine, I don't know, but I imagine that maybe there are some projects related to building quantum computers or related to quantum computation that may have tried to get grant. I don't know if you know any, but my question would be more related to if there were any, if they were approved, if we can expect something for the next years, in the next years in this sense, and more in terms of resources, if it's still, for example, the amount of money they gave in these grants is still too little to build a quantum computer, maybe a practical idea of this.
Yeah, so yes, actually Simon over there, he got a grant to grow, to start his research line in developing quantum dots for single photon emission. Because without his work, I cannot do mine, because I need a single photon source. I need a single photon emitter to build a single photon source and to put it on the chip, right? So I'm very happy that this worked out. His proposal was accepted. But look, still, FAPESP is putting a lot of money in this, but the scale we're talking about to, advance quantum computation is much larger. And again, it's our, I think it's a bit our job as scientists, as part of this community that is working on this, to go a bit outside and talk to the rest of society and convince them that this is a relevant task, that it's important to put funds into this. Especially now that the way the country works, you have representatives that can direct funds to certain programs, for instance. They have a certain amount of funds every year that they can take from the federal or the state budget and allocate to things they think are important. So it's a conversation that we should have. We are more or less trained to think that if we work hard and our science is sound and correct, that the scientific merit of it will attract funds. But in the end, we live in a society and we need to convince people that it's worth to invest this, all these funds. It's what I've talked about before, but so it's great that we have this. It will be very important for our work to continue and for this quantum initiative to get off the ground. But we need a lot more, especially because, there are several limitations in in the things we have access to, some things we have to get to import, and we pay a lot for this, so this requires more and more funds. And that at the end of the day, I strongly believe that we have to have a good explanation to society I mean, why do we need all this money? Because, you know, the country has other problems that cannot be solved quickly by quantum computing. So it's also important to do this talk to society.
Just to complement about the FAPESP initiative, we have some of the young researchers projects that are just beginning to develop quantum computers, at least prototypes of these quantum computers. So probably in 5 years we will have given our first step in this direction, I think so.
Well, I think that the history of financial support for quantum information in Brazil is showing us that financial support is increasing. Well, for many years we have this National Institute of Science and Technology for Quantum Information that's, I believe, stands for 10 years or something like this, and it's just finished. That gave some money for researchers to have some equipment in their labs, but mostly for people to move and create a network of researchers. This is why I think that the quantum community in Brazil is very mature, because we were for a long time possibly interacting with each other and even going to conferences abroad. Recently, we have this initiative from FAPESP that is, Felipe just mentioned, that is about to support young researchers to produce their science. And then also, FAPESP also opened one of these big calls for these grants called CEPID, and I know that there was an application for quantum technologies also. That will give a lot of financial support for the researchers involved in this application, if it's approved, if it become approved. So we see that the recent 10 years or so in Brazil, there's some increasing of the amount of financial support for research in quantum stuff. And but we need to deliver. We need to deliver results, deliver products, and explain to society. This is why we are looking for these devices, looking to these theories, looking to these approaches. Recently, I learned that the army, Brazilian army, is also interested in quantum. There will be some conversations with the Ministry of Defense, and there were some conversations with the Cybersecurity Command of Defense of the country, because the army is also interested in support some money, because we can deliver to them some technologies that they can use for defense of the country. You see, I think that nowadays we have a strong community, we have a lot of researchers, and these researchers can have their students that can be turned into good researchers. So from the human aspects we are established, we need now to think about the deliverables. We need to, just as also a kind of justifying why so much investment in this area, and asking for more money, and explaining why we need this money. Also in the context of the world economy, why we need this. So, but I think the things are getting better and better. So if I may be in the horizon of 10 years, we are going to have Brazilian quantum technologies, because we have the financial support is coming even more, and we are presenting results. We need to present more, deliver more results and products. But I truly believe that it's just a matter of time.
Well, to add to that, I was particularly positive about your answer. I think the way to convince private investors is to show that there might be some backup plan that is going to work. So if you say the technology to build a quantum computer is going to deliver something maybe not so astonishingly, but still sellable, that is a way. Because if you only sell the big dream, then when the big dream doesn't come true, that is really a big problem. If you have something, if you want NASA, all these big companies that work in that way, I mean, they explore the space, but also they delivered some technology that was a spin-off of that. So that is really the way, I believe.
Just to, in my point of view, I think that we need to have the support of the state. So I don't believe that in private companies in Brazil will just put enough money to construct what we need. So at this moment, we need to have the government just putting a lot of money, not just in this area, but in many other areas. I don't know, because they are just talking about to cut money, and we are just to deliver more money, not less.
Okay, there is a question from the chat. So I have always heard that a quantum computer will be like a scalpel, extremely useful for specific tasks, but incompatible with the general purpose quantum computer. Does this still hold true today?
No.
Hi, okay. That's an interesting analogy. And up to a point, I agree, because, and again, I don't really work with algorithms. I'm more focusing on the hardware. But from what I understand, that's, I mean, I personally think that we shouldn't have the mentality that developed in, let's say, the last 20 years of, you know, this, every week you get a new big app that will, you know, change the way you do whatever. Because quantum computers take a lot of resource to operate, and they are indeed very efficient for some specific tasks. For others, we have very efficient classical computers. And so, I mean, if you want to do a traveling salesman optimization, then yes, use a quantum computer. But if you want to play a game with more realistic graphics, use a classical computer. I don't see why you would use a quantum computer, you know, to completely substitute classical computers. Specifically because they have physical limitations that are much more stringent than those of classical computers, in particular to size, because we also got trained to think that computers will only get faster and smaller. And this is not so true for quantum computers, because even for superconducting qubits, for whatever technology, you're always, in a way, limited by the wavelengths you're using. And I mean, for my platform, I cannot go below feature sizes of, let's say, a few hundred nanometers. If we go below this, it's we're below the diffraction limit and doesn't really work the way it's supposed to. So unless you start using X-rays instead of, but then you have another family of problems, right? So really, it's we have to think of them as something similar but different from general computers. And in a way, I agree that it's kind of like a scalpel, that you wouldn't use a scalpel to cut your steak at lunch, right?
I think that things change nowadays, in my point of view, mainly because of the variational algorithms, in fact. And I'm not talking about quantum machine learning, but I believe, honestly, that optimization will be a problem that we will solve with 200 qubits. And these have impact in many different industries, companies, health, medicine. So if you have 200 qubits with high fidelity, probably we can solve optimization problems that a classical computer cannot solve. So if I could say, in my view, this kind of problems are prepared to be working in a quantum computer with impact in many, many industries.
Well, I agree with you, both of you, but I'll take another viewpoint, is that the computational complexity point of view, is that we need to know how the computer can solve efficiently a problem. So if you have, you can have this classical computer solving efficiently a problem, and then it's part of a computational complexity solution. But you can have a quantum computer solving some certain problem with another computational complexity family. So I think that in the map of computational complexity problems, and as I told you all about the NP hard problem, if some quantum computer could solve any of these problems in each of these families more efficiently than a classical computer, I would say, okay, you're going to have a quantum computer as a substitute, as a usual computer. But it's, as far as we know, it will never be true. It will never be true. Thinking about a computational complexity is what we know is that some will be solved efficiently but for classical computers, some will be solved by quantum computers. And that is it. So we're going to have the two machines working together in some point. But what I think, and this is why I'm moving my research more to this, is that one good way to look at the quantum computers and its importance is to look for the computational complexity point of view, to understand how the algorithms and how the computer as a problem. The computer is your scientific problem to solve. So, and I would answer it in this way. Thinking about the computational complexity, you can think about which computer will be more efficient in some computational classes.
Yeah, I just remembered something also that is important to this idea that for some things you want to stick with a classical computer. And you saw in Felipe's talk, right, that you have these sequences of pulses that you need to do to keep your qubits alive and coherent and everything. And we usually hear that, oh, quantum computers are going to be insanely fast and they're going to solve everything very quickly. That's there's an asterisk at the end of this phrase. Yes, but no, in the sense that they actually operate slowly in a way, because you need to do a lot of pulses, and these pulses take time, and there's a lot of juggling to keep things alive. But what people mean or should mean when they say that they're going to be incredibly fast is that although for trivial tasks they are slower than a classical computer, they can access tasks that are beyond the reach of classical computers. And for those, they can solve it faster, because if it takes forever for a classical computer to solve it, then if you solve it in finite time, you are already much faster than any classical computer, right? But that's the idea. When they say, they're going to easily break highly secure encrypted keys, yes, but it might still take months to do it on a quantum computer. It's not like you're going to push a button and get the key. It might take months for the quantum computer to process that and to decrypt a large key. But if it takes months to do something that would take hundreds of years to do with a classical computer, it's still insanely fast, right? But it's this scale that we need people to understand. Also to calibrate their expectations, because if you promise something that's going to be insanely fast and then you say, okay, but I need a nuclear power plant and I'll be back with the answer in 5 months, then people are going to look at you funny, right? Because you promised something that's going to be incredibly efficient. It's still incredibly efficient, but at the same time, it costs a lot of resources.
Also, I think that is important to mention quantum simulation. I think that is an important task that probably will be useful with few qubits, of course with high quality, and it's almost impossible to simulate these kinds of processes in a classical computer, just to mention as well.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I have a question, because if we want to invest as Brazil in quantum computation, I think that requires some coordination to steer budgets, steer research plans, maybe organize dedicated clean rooms or even institutions of quantum computation, or also political discussions. Is it possible that quantum gets a separate, like a discount on importation, because you require a lot of very expensive tools to construct things? Who do you think could coordinate this? Or do you think there should be a coordination on this? What is your vision or idea?
I'll answer in the most...
Don't want to coordinate that.
I'll try to answer in the most naive way. Yes, I believe it must be coordinated. Yes, it must be a political effort for this. But who and when, I can't answer you. I have no idea. But it needs to be coordinated in some way.
What I could say is that it's really difficult to create a connection even between the different states. So I think that in the end we will need to have a federal support to do this work, because individually we will not do this.
Yes, I mean, we need coordination, of course. I mean, it would be, I don't think it makes sense to mention a name or anything. I mean, like this person is perfect to do it, especially because it's mostly a team effort of many people doing the groundwork of going to talk to people and attending maybe boring meetings with Ministry of whatever. But it's something that we should do more and more, one thing. To go to ministry, the industry, not just to science and technology, because this one we know how to knock on their door, but to go to industry, to go to health, to the Ministry of Health, all of environment also, all those that we can see that agriculture, all those that we can see that are going to be impacted or that we think are going to be impacted, we could talk to them. We could talk to representatives. We often focus on the executive branch, but the executive branch has been losing power over the budget over the years, and we should bear in mind that the representatives can, direct some of the funds. But a part of this coordination also comes from doing more of this, doing more talking between the community, because although we all know each other and we talk much less than we should, because we don't have time. We have a ton of things to do, and often when we usually start this coordination process when there's a grant call that comes up. And then there's this frenzy, and for 2 months everyone's focusing on this, and then it goes away. Unless you get your proposal approved, and then you work on this. But we need more, permanent spaces to meet and discuss. And again, this is something that is made a bit hard due to the fact that the country is huge. Like in Europe, it's easier for you to say, I'm going to visit my collaborator in the Netherlands, and you're in Rome, you board your plane, you get there in 1-2 hours, and you discuss. But it's something we should do more often. First, to get a sense of where everyone wants to go, because there is this. Not everyone wants to go in the same direction, and that's perfectly valid. We need to build a common vocabulary to be able to translate from experimentalists so that, not even translate, but that make sure that experimentalists and theoreticians speak the same language, and so that people doing theory get to understand our limitations and our challenges, and at the same time we understand their limitations, their challenges, but also the opportunities, the things that we could see and say, maybe I can implement this. So yes, and then I think this coordination can emerge more organically, because also some people are more into, you know, going and talking to people in power than others, and but some others are more, you know, have fun, you know, managing the more administrative aspects, or maybe not have fun, but are more proficient with it. But yeah.
My question is, we were discussing in previous questions about we have to explain people, society, why to invest in developing quantum technologies and specifically quantum computing. So I would like to know from you what would be a good answer to why. So if I were to explain to someone why we have to invest, what elements should be my answer, and also on how can we do that to explain to society, to Brazil, that we should do these investments, because we are saying that we should do that, but not how, and also the why, how to answer that question. Thank you.
It will change industry, it will change medicine, it can change logistics. So it's certainly, if you are living a capitalism, then it will brings money, because you can develop some tasks better than nowadays using quantum technologies. Even for health, we have unique systems of health in Brazil that we can use to develop drugs, to develop methods for diagnostics. So in the end, it's create technology, and this technology in certain way or with certainty will change, or there is the possibility to change the society. So it will bring benefits for the society in the end. So this is why I think that it's primordial to include quantum computation as one of the strategic investment in the country.
You want to go? Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I completely agree. And I would just add that, okay, so there are a few things. First, we always have to be mindful that we are asking for a lot of money, right? And a part of what Felipe just said is that, look, we need to make it clear for people what kinds of problems we can solve, why these are relevant problems. For instance, drug discovery is quite important. Brazil has a huge biodiversity, which means we have a huge number of organic, biologically made molecules that could be investigated, and to investigate the full potential of our biodiversity to make people's lives better, quantum information processing would be an excellent tool. This kind of thing. And at the same time, one thing that I don't think is emphasized enough, because it is true and it is a good argument that, like, you want to invest in quantum because quantum might make you rich. But also I think, especially in our country, considering the way our society is composed and the way it works, in my opinion, we should point to the fact that if you invest in technology, and you can invest in a way that will give you indirect benefits, because you will create higher wage jobs that require people with more educated workers, more skilled workers, and this in turn creates a pressure for you to improve your basic education, your high schools, your higher education. And so, it can serve as, it's a motivator to, make things better, and it helps because it re-injects money into the economy. And so besides all the direct benefits, there are indirect benefits that can come from this idea of investing not just in quantum technologies, of course in quantum technologies, but let's say in technology as a whole, right? Other kinds of technologies will also offer this kind of benefit, right? And there are examples all over the world of places that have that are technology hubs, and that because of this, I mean, it can create other kinds of problems, right? When people that get huge wages move into a region and rent prices go up and so on. But I mean, that's society. You solve one problem, you create three. But that's it, right? We have to, you know, convince people that there are short-term benefits, direct and indirect, mid-term benefits, and long-term, you know, goals that could really help the country. And I really think that we should tailor our discourse to our country and to you know, our relevant the problems and potentials for our country. And it takes a lot of work to you know, sit down and think about this and do this outreach. It also takes a lot of work.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was about to say exactly the same thing. So, yeah, I truly believe that it's not only a matter of quantum technologies, but technologies in general. If you think about, as Dario mentioned earlier, about NASA, if you think in the progress that the United States have done to put someone inside of a rocket and send these 3 guys to the moon and bring them back alive, it's a huge advance in technologies, side effects for life sustainability in general. And I believe the technologies can have these side effects, so these positive side effects that we need to invest also. So saying that we want to invest in some quantum technologies means that probably we're going to have some side technologies that we don't know yet that will come. More educated people will appear, and the economy will change. And as Pierre said, we need to do this tailored to the characteristics of our country. That is a country that strongly invests in agriculture. We have nature all around, huge amounts of water. Those resources that probably will be close to vanish in the next 10 or 20 years. So not only for security of the country, but anything you need. So this is why I think that quantum technologies can come, can bring some new stuff for us, and then this is why I believe this must be supported. My opinion, please.
Well, okay. So there's just another short question, please.
Eu vou falar em português, vocês me perdoem. É só um comentário, assim, eu estou sentindo um pessimismo generalizado. Ou então muita resistência, assim, pouco entusiasmo frente às mudanças que a gente está para vivenciar, assim, tecnologicamente. Assim, acho que eles estão enxergando um curto espaço de tempo, ou então talvez muito no presente, que está assim sem sair do chão ainda. Mas assim, acho que as coisas vão tomar um ritmo bem acelerado, assim, bem próximo. Assim, em um curto espaço de tempo, a gente vai começar a sentir essa aceleração, assim, intrínseca do desenvolvimento tecnológico, porque eu acho que a China, com certeza, está trabalhando. Você vê os papers, 95% dos papers nessa área da China. Então, assim, eles estão trabalhando massivamente por uma corrida aí de, enfim, economia global, enfim. Então, assim, não é porque no Brasil a gente está nesse ritmo que eu concordo, que eu não sei se tem como mudar, porque o Brasil tem toda uma característica própria que não é muito de tecnologia de ponta, mas assim, não sei se a gente precisa escolher um computador quântico para atacar, porque acho que a gente vai perder todas as corridas de um computador quântico que a gente quiser desenvolver. Mas, assim, o que vai acontecer é que a gente vai sentir essa aceleração assim, da mudança tecnológica, e eu acho muito importante estar todo mundo sabendo do que é quantum computing, porque a gente vai começar, vai ser a nossa nova realidade. Então, simplesmente, a gente provavelmente vai só surfar isso, mas a gente vai ser obrigado a surfar. Então, assim, não sei se tem motivo para ficar assim, convencer a sociedade. A iniciativa de quantum tecnologia estão em todas as maiores empresas do Brasil já. Por exemplo, Suzano, que fabrica papel, lá em P&D, eles já estão pesquisando como incorporar quantum computing nos processos de logística. Itaú, enfim, e várias empresas. Então, assim, já tem essa... a gente não precisa convencer a sociedade, já está convencido. Todas as empresas já estão buscando, já tem essa sementinha lá que está se desenvolvendo. O problema é que a gente não está vendo nada agora, mas quando começar, assim, em pouco tempo, essa iniciativa vai começar a tomar uma velocidade, e aí que a gente vai ver que a gente vai agradecer de já estar num nível assim adiantado, pelo menos de conhecimento, para saber navegar. Então, assim, acho que é só positividade. Não sei se tem motivo para ficar com nenhuma... enfim, qualquer outra coisa. É só o meu comentário.
Muito boa, não, muito boa. Muito bom comentário. Na verdade, era uma pergunta que eu ia fazer também associado a isso, mas é justamente essa percepção, né? A sociedade, né, de certa forma, já está envolvida. A ideia do nosso curso, por exemplo, não fui eu que tive, veio de fora, veio gente pedindo, né? Então, eu acho assim, há uma tendência no Brasil de ter pouco investimento da área privada, assim, do interesse, né? A gente perdeu essa corrida tecnológica quando perdemos a indústria semicondutora. A gente não pode ter esse mesmo erro agora, né? Eu acho.
Bom, primeiro, queria dizer assim, muito obrigado pelo seu otimismo. Mas do nosso lado, pelo menos vou falar por mim, não é pessimismo, é cautela. Por quê? A gente, no Brasil, sem sombra de dúvida, é capaz de formar recursos humanos de altíssima qualidade. Nós temos pesquisadores nessa área no Brasil, que são pessoas fantásticas, né, de conhecimento profundo, capazes de desenvolver, tanto do ponto de vista teórico quanto experimental, dispositivos, ideias, enfim, e criar conexões com outras e aplicações, incrível. Mas é cautela, e aí entra nessa questão da sociedade, porque nos últimos anos, muita gente passou a enxergar a universidade como inimiga, como um gasto, né? Não como um investimento. Há muito pouco tempo, a gente sofreu com ataques muito fortes, tanto que até hoje o MCTI, o Gustavo citou ali, sofre para conseguir dinheiro para tentar manter. Esses editais que têm aparecido nos últimos anos estão muito difíceis e muito a conta-gotas. A gente ainda está vivendo uma situação de escassez muito grande. Motivos disso existem vários, mas, assim, nesse contexto, nesse cenário em que eu vejo que nós fomos malquistos em algum momento, eu não estou dizendo que não tenha o que melhorar nas universidades. Sim, claro, tem muito. Mas houve uma ideia de que poderia se acabar com a universidade, que se poderia acabar com pesquisa no Brasil. Falava-se em algum momento que pesquisa no Brasil não servia para nada, ou que só se fazia em instituição privada. Então, você precisa ter cautela para voltar a falar com a sociedade e apresentar o que é feito, né? Eu vou fazer um pouco de propaganda da minha universidade. Eu sou professor da Universidade de São Paulo, e na história recente, nós estamos completando 90 anos esse ano. E houve aí um telejornal que fez 4 episódios de contar o que se é feito dentro da USP. Isso é falar com a sociedade, dizer assim, olha, vocês financiam isso tudo, mas veja, as pessoas aqui estão se dedicando muito. Olha o que está voltando. Existe uma patente da Universidade de São Paulo, que eu não vou dizer o nome, mas é um medicamento para enjoo que qualquer criança toma. Minha filha já tomou diversas vezes quando ficava com enjoo. Isso é patente da Universidade de São Paulo. Então, essa comunicação da universidade com a sociedade precisa ser feita para qualquer desenvolvimento de tecnologia, para que ninguém tenha a sensação de que a universidade é dispensável. Ela já não seria dispensável só do ponto de vista de formação de recursos humanos, porque nós formamos realmente pessoas muito, muito talentosas. É um processo muito difícil formar pessoas. Nós recebemos jovens, super jovens, inseguros e que a gente tem que tornar profissionais em 4, 5 anos, na área de ciências exatas. E isso é um processo difícil, pesado, mas a gente faz isso amplamente nas universidades, amplamente. Mas ainda precisa dessa comunicação, de dizer, olha, aqui dentro a gente faz isso, a gente faz essa pesquisa, a gente desenvolve esse tipo de ideia. E por isso que eu, particularmente, sou sempre muito cauteloso em dizer assim, olha, pega alguns bilhões de reais e investe em computação quântica, que os efeitos disso você vai ver, como você muito bem disse, a gente vai surfar nisso, queira ou não. O que a gente pode decidir, enquanto sociedade, se a gente vai querer surfar na crista da onda e ter algum protagonismo ou não. Mas a gente precisa. Só que, assim, onde está esse conhecimento? Nas universidades. Aí começam a surgir agora cursos que formam outras pessoas, mas tem que ter essa comunicação, esse diálogo. E eu, particularmente, sou muito cauteloso por isso. Eu fiquei muito abismado, isso não é de história só recente, não, já de bastante tempo, desde quando eu estava na faculdade, longos e longos anos atrás, sempre houve essa sensação de que, para que serve uma universidade desse tamanho todo aí, e que a gente não vê efetivamente alguma coisa saindo? Não vê porque a gente não comunica muito bem. Nós falhamos nisso, e é importante que a gente tenha esse convencimento. Eu não sou ainda, embora vocês dois sejam muito otimistas, eu ainda não sou convencido de que a sociedade entende essas importâncias de desenvolvimento tecnológico. E nem vou botar a culpa na sociedade, é culpa nossa também. Nos últimos anos, divulgação científica se tornou até importante dentro das próprias universidades, né? Uma parcela dos cursos de graduação tem que ser em divulgação científica. Isso passou a ser obrigatório, porque é importante a gente falar o que é feito, né? Num mundo de comunicação tão rápida. Acho que ela quer comentar alguma coisa, Marcos. Abriu agora. Foi inaugurado agora, né? O TIA saiu agora, vai ser dia 11, acho que é 11 de dezembro, né? 11 de dezembro. Dia 11, né? Sim, sim. E aí elas surgem com outro aspecto muito bom, que surge ainda divulgando, olha, o evento que a gente está falando sobre isso, espalhando essa palavra. Então, por isso que eu ainda acho que ainda tem que ter esse convencimento da sociedade, de uma parcela, pelo menos, da sociedade. Aqueles que investem e querem ganhar dinheiro já estão convencidos de que vão ganhar dinheiro, mas a gente tem que investir a população comum, né? Os nossos familiares, né? Então, de que, olha, isso aqui é importante. A gente não está só lá brincando de qubit na universidade, né? O Pierre não chega lá com aquele circuito super complexo dele e fica apertando um monte de botão para sair do outro lado, só para ele ver que luz que pisca do outro lado, certo? Não é isso. Há um desenvolvimento tecnológico disso e que isso pode virar um retorno, certo? Então, então não é desânimo, é cautela.
Do meu ponto de vista, sim, eu acho que você usou o exemplo bom, que é o da China. O que a China tem que nenhum outro país do planeta tem? Investimento massivo público. Público, é isso, é déficit, entendeu? É déficit, não adianta, não é a iniciativa privada que vai desenvolver. Se você pensar nas grandes tecnologias, todas elas foram desenvolvidas pelo poder público. As empresas depois absorvem isso para fazer produtos, mas a internet, GPS, todas essas grandes tecnologias disruptivas, elas vêm do poder público. A China, ela tem investimento público pesado, então é isso que a gente precisa. Agora, a gente está indo aqui na contramão, entendeu? Aqui hoje nós temos, e olha que eu sou bem favorável a esse governo comparado com o outro, mas a gente está falando em arcabouço fiscal, entendeu? E em gastar menos. Você vai no SUS, falta médico, vai tirar dinheiro da saúde. Você vai na escola, falta professor, você vai tirar dinheiro da educação. Então, ou a gente coloca dinheiro de verdade, e aí eu falo em déficit mesmo, entendeu? Ou essas tecnologias não vão ser desenvolvidas, né, no Brasil. Não adianta esperar pela iniciativa privada, porque a iniciativa privada não vai colocar 1 bilhão, 2 bilhões, 3 bilhões. Precisa de desenvolvimento estratégico, sim, é verdade, mas com investimento público massivo. Caso contrário, do meu ponto de vista, não vai acontecer. Então, eu tendo a ser um pouco pessimista.
Então, eu concordo com os dois. Numa superposição. Primeiro, o que você comentou da questão do otimismo, né? Eu ia falar exatamente o que o Diogo falou, da questão da cautela, tá? Mas, ao mesmo tempo, você tem razão de que parte dessa interação com a sociedade tem que ser de cultivar um otimismo na sociedade, entendeu? De que a gente dá conta de fazer, de que, sabe, isso é marketing também, né? Só que, do nosso lado, a gente tenta fazer um marketing cauteloso, porque, bom, tem todo um assunto que não foi tocado aqui, da apropriação da palavra quântica para vender, para fazer marketing de outras coisas que não tem nada a ver, né? Então, a gente ainda tem esse problema, a gente tem essa barreira, né? De que tem gente que faz reprogramação quântica de DNA, entendeu? Um negócio... Ou seja, a gente ainda tem que explicar para as pessoas que não é bem assim, não é disso que a gente está falando, que esse negócio não funciona, e depois, sabe, criar esse otimismo. E isso seria realmente necessário, né, que as pessoas estivessem empolgadas com essa ideia, porque é meio inevitável, eu concordo com você, uma coisa. Outra coisa, você citou a Suzano, o Itaú também tem uma iniciativa de pesquisa, a Magazine Luiza tem um laboratório de pesquisa em Quantum também. Tem várias outras empresas que certamente têm, né? Mas o que eu quis dizer quando eu falei que, né, que a gente precisa um pouco do financiamento da iniciativa privada, e aí eu concordo totalmente com o que acabou de ser dito, que sem o financiamento público não tem jeito. E a gente não pode se iludir achando nos Estados Unidos a iniciativa privada faz tudo. Não é. Tá? Tem o dinheiro do financiamento público por trás do desenvolvimento de tecnologia sempre. Tá? Inclusive, quando é uma empresa privada fazendo, muitas vezes ela pede dinheiro para o setor público para fazer a pesquisa. Seja via, sei lá, desconto no imposto ou o que for. Aliás, essas empresas investem em pesquisa porque elas ganham desconto. Aqui no Brasil, elas investem em pesquisa porque elas ganham desconto no imposto. Tá? Só que, veja, são centros de pesquisa que estão lá fazendo a coisa deles. Eu não sei o que eles estão fazendo lá, entendeu? O que a Suzano está fazendo. O Itaú, eu conheço a Samurai, que está lá, mas eu não sei o que ela está fazendo. Provavelmente alguma coisa de otimização de portfólio, não sei. Ou criptografia. Magazine Luiza, bom, eles entregam coisas, então vou chutar que eles fazem otimização de rotas também, sabe? Mas não sei o que eles fazem, eles não vêm falar com a gente. E ainda fica a pergunta, eles estão interessados em desenvolver tecnologias quânticas ou eles estão interessados em formar ali a primeira turma de programadores de computador quântico dos outros? Porque essa é uma coisa que pode acontecer, entendeu? Você falar, não, eu vou botar aqui dinheiro para botar treinar umas pessoas que vão ser as pessoas que vão fazer o algoritmo para minha empresa, e onde que esse algoritmo vai rodar? No computador da IBM, na Xanadu, ou sei lá, se a China tiver o deles e abrir na nuvem, entendeu? Porque para eles pode fazer sentido essa abordagem, né? E a gente quer desenvolver tecnologia, quer fazer um desenvolvimento de tecnologia nacional, porque, a longo prazo, isso traz benefício para a sociedade. Né? Então, tem esse problema. E aí isso passa um pouco pelo que o Nick falou, da questão da organização e da articulação. Né? E de que isso dificilmente a gente vai conseguir fazer partir da comunidade científica, porque Não, então, está vindo, mas o que eu quero dizer é que talvez a gente sinta falta de uma camada extra, de sensibilizar as pessoas. De novo, o poder executivo é sempre o que a gente olha, mas meio que dessa vez é isso mesmo, entendeu? Esse papel de articular os setores da sociedade para fazer conversar deveria ser do poder executivo, entende? De um dia falar assim, olha, nós vamos organizar um fórum aqui, empresas e academia, para discutir tecnologias quânticas. Não, exatamente. Não, então, mas é nesse sentido também que eu falei de que a gente tem que sair convencendo a sociedade, as pessoas. Exatamente, você tem que primeiro convencer seus vizinhos, aí uma pessoa, sabe, a coisa vai percolando até chegar na pessoa lá no ministério e fala assim, não, tá aí, realmente é uma boa ideia, vou fazer aqui um fórum mas quem tem que fazer o fórum é a pessoa que está lá no ministério, entendeu? Não tem como. Se eu chegar lá na Unicamp e falar, gente, vamos fazer um fórum com as empresas, não vai vir ninguém. Ou, no máximo, vai vir as empresas de Campinas, né, que já é alguma coisa. Enfim, depois a gente conversa mais.
Por exemplo, aqui, isso que a gente está fazendo já faz parte desse movimento.
Exatamente.
É isso, é essa a ideia. Talvez um ponto de vista de uma perspectiva de quem está mesmo do lado de lá atuando e a percepção que a gente tem do nosso próprio contato com a sociedade. Ele não é bom tanto no nosso lado da propaganda, quanto também da interação com a indústria, né? Muitas vezes eu vejo colegas meus falando de tecnologias quânticas de um ponto de vista totalmente acadêmico. Ele não está falando para o indivíduo da sociedade, ele não está falando para o sujeito da indústria que está querendo ver um produto, ele está falando muitas vezes, as pessoas precisam aprender com toda a sua matemática, né, e assim por diante, mas é isso. Podemos finalizar? Muito obrigado pela pergunta, ela agitou bastante, né? Fez o que realmente deveria fazer, e é isso aí. Bom, pessoal, muito obrigado pelo período da manhã. Vamos agradecer todos os palestrantes. Bom, a gente, em princípio, estaria aqui, acho que 2h30 dá para dar, não ter. E o almoço, o que é? Cada um se...
Sim. Não, almoço...
Tem algum lugar por perto que se recomenda?
Há um lugar que é bom, o nome é Moça Prindada, é perto daqui. Eu não estou seguro que todos pode ficar em um single lugar, mas nós podemos tentar porque é tarde.
Tá bom.
Sim, vamos tentar.
Nossa Senhora. Pessoal, só avisando que 2h30 estejam aqui, né, que a gente ainda tem. A gente pode